Hey, Nanaimo Christian School, James Cypher here, head principal. And I'm just really pleased to be joined here by Jen Tonsi and Darren Edmonds, two of our board members. So incredibly thankful for our entire board and thankful that I get to have some time here with Jen and Darren, and thankful for their leadership and the work that they've done right now. Jen is our board chair and has been a great support for myself and our admin team. And Darren is a healthcare worker working at the Nanaimo Regional Hospital, and thankful for his work and for him taking a bit of time to be with us today. So I'd love for you to hear about some of the things that our board is doing, and so I'm going to ask maybe Jen to answer that question, if you wouldn't mind just sharing what is the board doing during these different times.
Well, we're carrying on as usual as best that we can, and we still have the same priorities in protecting our vision and our mission and working with admin. But one of the things that we've been working on over just the past week is our board succession and making sure training is in place and that we are looking after each other and the board, and the fun stuff, like all the policy delegations, working on our principles, limitations, and guidelines and expectations so that we have really good flow with our board and with you. We get to look at budget stuff, so that's fun. And we're always focusing on future opportunities, where God's leading us next and how we can guide. Yeah, we're also always looking at building a strong society and what our membership looks like and how we're serving them and how we can communicate better. And then we're involved in other things too, like park project and our community building team. So yeah, all these things are moving forward, some at a different pace, but I'd say that we're very much on track and doing what God has called us to do.
I know you were part of the prayer meeting that happened today as well, and excited to see that continuing on. And
yeah,
and when you mentioned some succession planning, and does that mean that you're seeking out new board members?
we are seeking out new board members, but we're very prayerful about it, and we are looking for the right people to fill the right spaces so that we are balanced and, that we are doing the best we can as a team.
That's great. And Darren, I know your role on the board has changed a little bit, and right now, obviously, just as a healthcare worker, you really need to sort of have a bit of focus there, but you were able to just sort of connect with a lot of people and just sort of be an encouragement and things like that, and wondering, is there anything you could share with us and with our society and our community?
Yeah, thank you. It really is a privilege to be able to speak to everybody at Nanaimo Christian School. So thank you, James, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. It's not taken lightly. And I want to just start out by saying I've always been proud in a godly way of being part of NCS, but I've never been as proud as I am now. And I just want the society members to know that, like, we know we have incredible staff, but in this time, in the last month, I want to tell you that your head principal and your admin team have been working through their spring breaks to make things possible for your kids to hit the ground running on their first day back at school. And I can tell you that didn't happen in the public schools, because I've been speaking to colleagues who almost fell off their chairs when they heard of what was available to our kids, and just our open-handedness at being available to children outside of our community, in terms of frontline healthcare workers and just first responders. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to all the staff at NCS. This is just such an amazing school. And on the back of that, I shared this with our board the first week, kind of just as we shut down for the pandemic. I must be honest that I was very fearful in the natural looking at what was coming, and have been nervous and scared for what's coming, has been coming out of China for a couple of weeks now. And in preparing to share with our board, I've been reading through Numbers and Deuteronomy, and Numbers 14 just stood out to me. And I wanted to share this with the society just briefly, but really what happens in Numbers 14 is the Israelites come to the edge of the promised land, and you know the story that they go in and they have a look at it. They're 12 spies, 2 come back with a favorable report, and 10 say they're giants and it's scary and we'll never take the promised land, and God's brought us out of Egypt to die in the desert and we should go back to Egypt. And if you read through that, I won't go into too much detail, but read through Numbers 14, because I applied this in my own life. I've seen over the last 2-3 years, and many of you know some of what we've been through as a family. I've seen God provide for me in the desert as he's bringing me towards the promised land. And I felt that as my fear, and I don't say I've got that completely under control. I think we always have fear, but we need to be submitting that to God. And I want to encourage you as a society. I know we are all facing different challenges on different fronts. And I just felt God say to me out of Numbers 14, I felt God actually grab me and shake me a bit and say, where have you come from and how have I protected you up until now? And what makes you think that I will not do the same in the midst of a pandemic? And so I want to encourage our school. I think that I know that God was not surprised by the corona. I know that we're sitting in the palm of his hand. And I want to say to you, in the midst of all of that, in the process of thinking things through, I believe that there is a shaking internationally that God has allowed to happen for us to question what our hope and what our faith is based on. And I hope that for us as a school, we find our hope and our faith based in the one who is never shaken, who never disappoints. And so I want to encourage you in that. God promised to take his people into the promised land, which they did eventually, but it took them 40 years. And I think as we look at the giants around us today, we have the opportunity to run back into Egypt, into where we were. We have the ability to look on and say, what's God taking us to? And I can tell you, on the other side of Corona, or in the midst of Corona, there are going to be many, many people looking to us for answers, because we have a hope that supersedes the natural that we're faced with. And so that's I hope is my encouragement to you. Not that I'm walking in that every day. I get very nervous at work. You don't want to see my hands. I look like an 80-year-old from a hands point of view because I wash so much, which I think is wise, but there's fear there too. And I've got to commit that to God. And so I want to say to us as a society, let God speak to you. Each of us have something in our hands right now, whether they be fish and loaves or whatever it is. How's God using you in this opportunity to be a blessing to those within our community and those outside of our community? Because we thrive in times like this as the Church of the Living God. We thrive. We are made for times like this to be a blessing to those around us, not only Christians, So
yeah, we are blessed by our board in Nanaimo Christian School. Wondering if there's anything else that you would like to share.
I just really feel a great sense of gratitude to be in the spot we're in when this is happening. We have a board that loves one another, who's focused on Christ, and our relationship with you, James, has been just growing, and God's taken us through a lot and taught us a lot. I'm grateful to be working with a head principal who is transparent, who is caring, and just I've gotten to see your gifts for 4 years before we got here, so I have a tremendous amount of confidence just in how you lead. And I've been loving watching it from my kids' perspective and just hearing all the wonderful feedback. So I just feel a real sense of gratitude going into this, the way God's prepared us and brought us together. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I know there's lots of hard days ahead, but we're there for one another. We're not just families coming together. We are a family. So yeah, just know that people are praying for one another and willing to help, but also hoping that people are willing to ask for help when they need it too.
Yeah, that's good too. We will get through this together, right, as a community. So if anybody does feel like they're on their own or not handling isolation all that well, reach out. And we know that there's someone in this community, whether it's from staff or from the board or just from the immense generosity that's out there. That we would love to meet you in the ways that you need help. So again, I just cannot thank you, Jen and Darren, enough for your leadership and your work on the board. All the other board members as well. Just so incredibly grateful for them. And yeah, God has put you in those positions for a time such as this as well. And look forward to being at the other end of this when we're together again, when we're able to shake hands and give high fives and be back to some normalcy. But we know that we'll tell stories in that whatever time frame that is, and we'll look back and we'll continue to see God's faithfulness shining through all these things. And so that's my prayer for each of you and your families and for our community. And I know you're doing that for our community as well. So again, just thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Darren.